Again, the accusations that people are making regarding scrap metal and so on, those wouldn't have come up in a department head meeting. Those are allegations being made by other people. So
I think you'll find at the water department that it's more than just scrap metal. There's more stuff going on out there that probably shouldn't be going on than just scrap metal. But that's what you need to get a grip on.
And I have regular meetings with the department head of the water utility.
Okay, let's just try to keep things positive and upbeat. I think the spirit of the motion, and it's not my motion, it's Councilor Mercier's, is that there be more direction from you and that there be better communication between you and the department heads. That's kind of what it's about. Whether you meet at Wednesday or Thursday or whatever, but there should be some improvement along those lines, and you should be taking that as constructive criticism.
Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I agree with I think it's a very good motion by Councilor Mercier. I don't know if I would say Wednesday, and I wouldn't even say what kind of meetings they have to be. It could be coffee. It could be you having lunch with Mr. Moses or coffee with the city solicitor. But I think the important thing is you're basically intermediate with the offices and the department heads, and I think the more information you derive in a meeting or over coffee, it's better for the council. And I supported the motion, I seconded the motion, but I look at it, it's just a line of communications that improves, but you're our communications with the departments, and that's why I really support it. And I'm not saying when or where or how often, but what if it's coffee, lunch, just to keep our communications open.
Councilor Martin.
I'd move to amend the motion to change Wednesday after the city council meeting to regularly.
Motion to amend by Councilor Martin. Councilor Mercier.
I'd just like a clarification as to regularly, because I told you earlier that I do a lot of communication myself with the departments, and I asked that very question before Friday. One told me a month and a half, I haven't met the manager. Oh, the last time I met with the manager was 2 months ago, and another one was 3 months ago. That's not regularly. Now, what do we mean by regularly? Every week? I'm not saying Wednesday at 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not specifying that. But I will tell you, Mr. Manager, you work for this council, and I am setting a policy. So whether you like it or not, if my colleagues agree to it, that's the spirit of the motion, that I think you should communicate a little bit more. And if you're offended by that, you have departments, you govern them, but we govern you, and I think it's incumbent upon you to meet with them regularly. And you probably would have known what was going on in the library a while back. So it seems like every single department has a problem after a problem, and I want it to stop. There's no unity, there's no communication, and that's what I'm saying. So I don't know what you mean by regularly.
Well, you just said it yourself.
Regularly, once a week.
Mr. Mayor.
Just said it yourself.
One moment. Councilor Martin.
Motion fails for lack of
There's no second. I was going to second the amendment to the motion. There's no second to it, so it's okay.
Would you like to second the motion?
I'll second the amendment
Second the amendment.
to the main motion.
Okay. Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Martin.
I have nothing further to add.
Councilor Elliott.
I think the message here, and I think it's a good motion, and Mr. Manager, I think you should heed the warning from the people that are sitting here, that we sense that it is department after department. And what I can gather is some department heads you're not meeting with them. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea from your perspective to find out what the status is of things week after week. And it seems that you don't know what's going on. You're not receiving letters from the Inspector General. That would be my red flag, first and foremost. And if you don't know what's going on, then, week after week, it seems like you're not in touch with what's going on in your departments. When it's, now it's the screw pumps at the water treatment plant. And so, I mean, maybe you know about it, but I think if you work for us, we should know about it instead of picking it up and reading it in the newspaper. And if you think sending out an email, oh, by the way, we're working on this, I think it should require a little bit more notification. These screw pumps went down in July, and then the last one in August.
And we reached a crisis point in the last week, and that's why I felt it was necessary to bring it to the attention of the council. If you're looking for a manager that's going to pick up the phone and call you every single time something happens in the city, you don't want a manager.
Mr. Manager, you got the wrong person, because you don't call me. I don't ask you to. I would like to be kept abreast of what's going on before the fact and not after. And I don't think that's unreasonable.
Well, you didn't get the screw pumps from the
I think
newspaper,
when we
you got
get,
it from an email.
I
from
think
us.
when we get letters from the Inspector General, I would like to see them. I won't speak for the rest of my councils. When there are 3 or 4 screw pumps down, a major infrastructure issue in the city, I would like to know them. When there's money being stolen from the parking department, I think I would like to know. So those are the issues that should have been brought forward. We got a West Nile case. I think that we should know about it. I mean, luckily I know it because I know the woman. Otherwise, who knows? So I think the message from us, who you work for, is that you need to get back in touch with your department heads, get on top of the issues, and notify your bosses and the public. That's all.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just let me clarify. I mean, I seconded the amendment because I think that it keeps the spirit of the motion the same, whether you do it on Wednesday or whenever. I don't really care. I don't think the maker of the motion probably cares, just as long as it's done at a regular time. And again, I think this is a real good management tool for you to have for several different reasons.
Any further discussion? Councilor
Yes.
Mercia.
I'm troubled by regularly. I might say regularly is once a week, whether it's Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever, or maybe the manager might think regularly might be a month or 2. That's regularly. I don't know what regularly, what does it mean? It means different to different people. Weekly, bi-weekly, I don't know. Monthly, regularly, I don't know what you mean.
We'll take a roll call on the amendment then. Councilor Mendonça.
I'm just not sure. I understand the spirit of the motion, and I agree there should be more communications. But just stipulating that there's a meeting doesn't mean the communication occurs. These department heads have to be forthcoming and provide the information. Just having them in the room doesn't mean you're going to get it. I'm sure there are plenty of times when there was the theft at the parking department, there were plenty of opportunities probably to share that information that did not occur. I'm sure there were meetings, even if they're once every quarter. And I personally feel that meetings are often a waste of time. The key is the communication. So stipulating meetings is not going to solve the problem. We have to get the communication going, and these department heads to keep the manager apprised of what's happening, and for the manager to keep us apprised thereafter. And that's what the important thing. So I think the message is we need more communication. We'd like to have more of this information sooner rather than later. But I think stipulating that we're just have meetings is not going to solve that problem. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the amendment? We'll take a roll call, please.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
No.
Councilor Mercia.
No.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott.
No.
6 yeas, 3 nays.
Amendment passes. Take a roll call on the motion as amended.
Councilor Kennedy.
Yes.
Councilor Leahy.
Yes.
Councilor Laurie.
Yes.
Councilor Martin.
Yes.
Councilor Mendonça.
No.
Councilor Mercia.
No.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen.
Yes.
Councilor Elliott. 6 yeas, 3 nays.
Thank you. Next motion by Councilor Noon. Request the city manager have proper department review and improve street lighting at corner of Middlesex and Westford Streets. Seconded by Councilor Mercia. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mayor. A few weeks ago, the Lowell Police have done a sweep of prostitutions along Middlesex and Westford, and we have learned of a number of incidents right around that time. Also, shot fire, and recent one is the incident of shooting. There was injured 4, if not 5, victims. This recent shooting in the community brought into our collective perspective as to the need to collaborate more closely with the neighborhood and the Lowell Police. If, I would suggest that whatever we can do to help the neighborhood and the Lowell Police in terms of lighting, having the street light, not along the corner of Middlesex and Westford, but on Middlesex and Westford, so that it hopefully to deter any, prostitution as well as other crime in that areas. It's working with the LPD, the Lowell Police, and the neighborhood to fight crime. It's important for us as a council to do. So that's why I brought that motion forward.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, so voted. Next motion by Councilor Noon, request the city manager review enforcement of existing ordinance requiring property owners to maintain foreclosed and abandoned properties. Seconded by Councilor Martin. Councilor Noon.
Thank you, Mayor, again. I brought up the idea, the shot fire on the Lower Highland on Smith Street. Shortly thereafter, the Lowell Police and the neighborhood, they had a meeting. That was August 25th at the, near the Malloy School. The neighbor came out and said, look, I'm concerned about the abandoned building, foreclosure building that either bank owned or the abandoned or absentee landlord bought up and all that, but there's no phone number to call, no name, because there's a grass or trash and whatnot, so they just want to see if we have an ordinance on that. That's my understanding for the foreclosures as well as abandoned building, to have the owner put up their name and number so people can call. And if you can't call them, the next step is to enforce it, to find them, and that's what I'm asking, that we do that, find way to make sure they are paid for what they supposed to do and not doing it.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilor Noon, request the city manager have proper department review establishing a crosswalk in the area of 1141 Bridge Street. Second by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Noon.
Thank you. There's a number of business, and I know that New Plaza is just built out, and they have a yoga place there. Is it yoga? Yeah, I think it's Berry Rich or something, and then across the street you have AutoZone and China Express. And I saw kid actually, walking, crossing the street, and a very busy street though on Bridge Street. If there's anything we can do to help in terms of making sure, it's easier for the children and families to cross the street from one place to the other, is certainly help. So, if we can assist in that. In the past, and other crosswalk thing, I always go to Henry and not put a motion up, but since I put a couple motion on, so I said, why not do it all together? So, and that's why it is on here tonight.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilor Noon, request the city manager have proper department install a no-turn on red signal on the Lord overpass coming from Middlesex Street to the downtown. Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Noon.
I knew of a lot of people. When I say a lot, a dozen and more got stopped and ticket on that area. Sometime when the police not around, you got away with it. When police is parked right around the corner of it, you got ticket. It's like the street on Chelmsford, the Walgreen area, Plain Street. You see, you can't turn right on red, right? They have a sign there say no right turn on red. But on this here, we didn't put a sign, and people assume that because there's no sign, it's a red light. That area is confusing a little bit to people. I know people got ticket there, dozen and more. I know some went to court. And you know what? Hey, sorry, you make a right turn on red. Well, put a sign there so people understand that they cannot turn right on red. Some other area, yes, you may do that, but this here, if you're going to ticket people, tell them that they cannot turn on red. So I would suggest that we have engineering department look into it, and if they can turn right on red, then stop ticketing them. Thank you.
Council Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, why were people ticketed in the first place? The state law says that you are able to take a right on red when you're coming into a traffic that's one way. You can. The only way that you can't do it is if someone, you know, if we vote to put a no right on red at that point. But if there's no sign there and nobody, I don't recall ever anybody saying this motion except you right now, but you can take a right on red all around the lot overpass because you're going into you're coming out into a one-way street. Now, if you go down Central Street and you're facing like the 5 and 10 right ahead and you're going on to Merrimack Street, you can take a left on red without, you know, you can do it even if you have a red light. You take a left on red because you're coming into a one-way street. The same holds true around the lot overpass. So I don't know why people were ticketed there. There's no sign, and I don't remember ever anyone voting. I remember that we voted for a no right on red on East Merrimack Street going past the Federal Building, and if people were taking a right on Bridge Street as cars were coming out from Prescott Street, it was very dangerous, and we voted no right on red there. So I don't see the sign. I don't recall us ever voting for that. I don't know why people were ticketed there. They shouldn't have been.
Councilman Donza, and then Councilor Elliott.
Yeah, I had a similar question. I don't know why they're being ticketed unless they didn't stop. I mean, you can make a right turn on
you have to
red,
stop
but you have to stop first. So if they didn't stop, and that's why they got the ticket. But I don't believe that there's well, there's obviously not a sign there, so I don't know what they could be enforcing. And I think that's what we need to look into. But I think in order to, I mean, we have problems with traffic congestion. So unless there's a safety concern, then we should allow them to make the right turn on red so long as they stop first, obviously, as the law requires. I'd hope to keep them moving. Now, if there's accidents there as a result of this, then we should see if we make it a no right turn on red if that's needed, but I hope it's not.
Any further discussion on the council motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Councilor Leahy?
I'm sorry, I thought we just kind of determined that we weren't gonna put a sign there, no? So aren't we gonna vote on it and say no?
Yeah.
Should we just have a
Refer
roll
to the
call?
traffic, refer it to the manager to refer it to the, to get an explanation as to, are there any accidents happening there? I don't know that. And the reason they're getting ticketed, like Joe said, they're probably not stopping. Once you stop, you can still proceed.
So, motion as amended. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? So voted. Next motion by Councilor Elliott. Request the City Council initiate the process to solicit applications for the position of City Auditor and notify the auditor that they will not renew her current contract. Seconded by Councilor Kennedy. Councilor Elliott.
As I read the auditor's contract, the reason why I put the second part of the motion in, because if we do not notify her, then we are responsible for her severance. So I don't want it to be direct, but I thought we needed to do so in order to make sure we don't have to pay 40% of the sick time and up to $20,000 and then 4 months severance as well as her vacation time. But let me just say, Ms. Wright seems like a very nice woman. This is not personal. I know she's not here tonight. She's always been cordial. My concerns are the issues that have surfaced since the last time and the way that they were handled. So I filed the motion. I think it's important to have somebody that is vigilant, that is independent, that is a watchdog, that's going to look for red flags and beforehand and act on them. And when you find a red flag, address them. So that's my primary concern. I said it earlier. She hasn't met my expectations, so rather than not address the terms of the contract, we put it out there and let people know that's what my intent is, because that's what my intent is, that we should look for an order that can go out and, be curious, be conspicuous. Find these problems in the parking, find them wherever they may be. The treasurers, I did go look, I looked through the reconciliation. That went on for years and years and years, 2005. So, I look at some of the audit reports and I say, why have these things lingered? And, reports, trying to get reports, she just have to ask once. She works for the council and we should get them. So, I'm not going to belabor the issue. I made my point, and that was the purpose. That is the purpose of the motion.
Thank you. Councilor Martin and Councilor Laurie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm opposed to the motion. I actually think Ms. Wright has given us pretty good service in her time here as auditor. But the way the contract is structured, she notified us that she's willing to stay and wants to enter into a period of negotiation for a new contract, which is up at the end of the year. So the council, I think it is now on us to either re-notify her that we're going to entertain a renegotiation of her contract or not. So, Councilor Elliott's motion says we will not renew the contract, and I think we should do the opposite. I think we should enter the period of negotiation. I think, nobody's perfect and there's always room for improvement, but I think if you look at, for example, the management letters that have come in, the things in her control under those management letters have been steadily improved over time, and different things are falling off the management letters issued by the outside audit firm. So I'm satisfied with her performance. I think we should be pursuing a renegotiation of the contract, and I think that's the action that the council should be taking.
Thank you. Councilor Laurie. And then
Thank you,
Councilor
Mr.
Kennedy.
Mayor. I wasn't on the council last term, and before I make any determination, I'd like to get a copy of the, was there a clerk or oversight committee last term?
Yes, it was.
I'd like a copy, if I could, from the city clerks on those meetings and the subcommittee and what they found. I have another concern. Does the auditor, well, we'll leave it with the auditor, not treasurer, do they answer to a state agency? Does the state agency work through them with the city? I'd like a copy of those reports too, to see what the state has to say. You know, earlier tonight, we had the IG report, and I happened to call today, and they gave me a couple of recommendations that said, okay, after you do this, it's fine. And I was just wondering if there's whatever that state agency is, if I could have that report on what they do with the auditor, and what the results of those, I'd like to have those before I go any farther.
Thank you. Council Kennedy?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make my position pretty clear. I do not believe that the city auditor should have a contract. This city auditor or any other city auditor. The city has never given a contract to the city auditor before. I think this is the first one that's ever had a contract. It is of zero benefit to the city. It's a benefit to the employee, but the city has no benefit, and there's no upside to giving a contract to the city auditor. The only purpose that a contract serves is to provide extraordinary benefits to an employee that they would not otherwise get without the contract. Aside from that, there's no benefit, and certainly no benefit to the city or to the taxpayers or citizens of Lowell. So maybe it would be a good idea if the chair entertained dividing the question into whether or not there should be a contract for the auditor before we talk about renegotiating. I'm not really sure, but my position, I just want to be clear with everybody that I have no intention on voting for any contract for the city auditor. I do think it is prudent probably to go out and look at what other candidates there might be there. If we aren't going to have a contract for the auditor, I'm not sure that the auditor would want to stay without a contract. You know, the auditor's not here, and that's a different issue. But once again, I have no intention of voting on any contract for the city auditor. Thanks.
Any further discussion on the motion? Councilman Donson?
I mean, I have certain feelings about the position, but I was hoping that we could meet with the auditor prior to this deadline occurring in order to have councilors ask any questions, have them answered prior to making this decision. I don't know if it's something that could be set up for next week. Others may not agree, but I was hoping to have a meeting with the auditor prior to making this decision. And I'd like to delay making a decision until a meeting could be held. I don't know if there's any support for that. I'll make a motion that we meet with the auditor next week prior to deciding this question.
Second.
Substitute motion by Councilman Donson to meet with the auditor at some point next week before deciding this question. Seconded by Councilor Noon.
On the motion?
On the motion.
Is it the intent of the motion that the entire council would meet with the auditor, or is it the intent of the motion that the council oversight subcommittee would?
This would be the entire council,
Okay.
not subcommittee.
And what would be when would we do that?
Whenever it could be scheduled next week,
We can schedule that for sometime later this week. If you,
the next Tuesday, whenever.
What about the Tuesday before the city council meeting?
well, we can,
There is no city council meeting scheduled for
I
next
know
week.
that,
but
I'm
we could
talking
have-
about in
Oh,
2
the
weeks.
following week, yeah.
What's the hurry, like you said?
well,
to
there,
me?
the hurry, I suppose, is the date by which we're required to respond to her request.
And what is the date?
I believe that's the 25th.
Right.
If it's all right with the maker of the motion, I would suggest that we would call a meeting based upon availability of the auditor and the city council.
Well,
That's fine.
But that's entirely up to
yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Kennedy.
if I've got this right, and I don't have a calendar in front of me, but if today's the 11th, the next meeting would be on the 25th. And so if we had the meeting on that day, we would be able to inform the auditor on that day. Is that correct, or does it have to be before 5 o'clock, or what's the?
Yeah,
Madam Solicitor.
Given the parameters of the contract, I had calculated it out, I think, and sent an email off to the council once the auditor had made her request, and I believe it was the 25th that I had advised the council. My personal feeling on this would be, I would never want to leave it to that last day. It's, the language of the contract is within 30 days. I would feel more comfortable if we were on the sooner side rather than later side. And the reason is, if something like that ever were to occur, the timing, that automatically generates, a 1-year extension of a contract. And I'm sure, the auditor wouldn't want anything under those circumstances, and certainly the council wouldn't either. So whatever efforts could be made to have the meeting, I guess, sooner rather than later. And also, we have requirements to send the notice in writing to her. So having the meeting and having enough time to, and even the other thing to keep in mind as well is that I think it's certainly appropriate to have a meeting with the auditor. Following that, the council may decide they want to have a meeting without the auditor and have discussions about parameters of contract negotiations. Some councilors might not want a contract, others might, what that would all look like. And so I just think that giving yourselves enough time to really do that, not waiting to that last day would make sense.
Mr. Mayor.
To the maker of the substitute motion, Councilman Donza.
Well, again, I'd prefer to have it next week and still have some time, as the solicitor said, in order to then, after we've made our decision, in order to get it in writing and get it to the auditor, whatever that might be.
Okay. On the substitute motion, Councilor Elliott.
I would like to offer a second substitute motion.
Councilor
Okay,
Elliott.
I was just going to ask for, what is the purpose of meeting with the auditor? She sent us a notice, and we either have to respond that we want a contract and negotiate, or we don't. And that's why I did make it very specific, because of the language in the contract and the ramifications or consequences if we don't. So I'm not sure what we're going to do to meet with her. There's just an audit oversight subcommittee a couple of weeks ago. We met with her, and she told us what she did, and I think from the management letters, I just don't understand. I think, considering what the solicitor said, that was one of the reasons why there are some time frames that we need to work with. And so I think if we support if you want a contract, another contract, then fine. But if not, then this is the time to make that vote.
Any further discussion on the substitute motion?
Substitute.
I'd like to offer a second substitute motion.
Councilor Kennedy?
I would like to move that, go ahead.
I don't believe you're allowed to.
Okay, then,
Offer of
well, then
substitute.
let's take up the substitute motion first.
Okay.
and then-
Any further discussion on the substitute motion?
Could you repeat it, Mr. Mayor, please?
Substitute motion was by Councilman Donza to essentially set up a meeting next week to meet with the auditor, and at that point, we would issue a response to the auditor and potentially take any action from there on that. Any discussion?
And can I just clarify what the purpose of that, what are we going to talk to her about?
I assume to notify her of our intentions, but Councilman Donza?
Well, it could have questions and address concerns if there are any. Let her intentions be clarified, or ours, and then we could take up this vote.
The other issue here is that the auditor may be away next week.
Oh, jeez.
So, I mean, we could set up a meeting later this week if that's the wish of the maker of the motion.
That's fine, so long as we have a meeting with the auditor, that's fine.
Okay.
Wait,
Any further discussion? Council Kennedy?
what's the substitute motion now?
Substitute motion is to meet with the auditor at some point later this week to discuss with her Was,
When will that be, if it's gonna be this week? I mean, that would have to be Friday. There's no other time, right? If the auditor's away next week, and we don't want to... Is that right?
it's probably,
Have to
yeah.
be Friday?
probably. Counselor Elliott.
I'm not going to support this motion for obvious reasons. I mean, the motion is before us. I think we should just, one way or the other, take a vote up or down. I mean,
She's away next week.
she's evaluated, she's been evaluated, week after week. She sent us this notice. I mean, she was with the clerk. She sent it several weeks ago, and we should just, one way or the other, let her know. And I'm not I guess I don't understand after this time what other, and I understand other people may have some questions, but I just think we should vote it up or down.
Any further discussion of the motion? Counselor Leahy.
Thank you. I'm gonna support the substitute motion only because, obviously I haven't been here to evaluate her and, give her a chance it would give us a chance to meet with her, and I'll support that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Kennedy.
Pass.
Counselor Leahy.
Yes.
Counselor Laurie.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Madonza.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
No.
7 yeas. I think you should come back to me.
Counselor Kennedy.
Yes.
8 yeas.
Thank you. If Counselor Mendonça would take the chair.
Next is a motion by Mayor Murphy. Request city manager update city council on compliance plan for tree ordinance, including improved public hearing process. Second by Council Laurie. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a pretty straightforward motion. I brought something up similar last year. This is to understanding that there's somewhat of a cost to actually coming into compliance with the ordinance, which requires that we replace trees that are removed on an inch-by-inch basis according to the caliper of the removed tree. Clearly, that poses some significant problems to our resources, but at least we can work a way at trying to become more compliant with the ordinance by, as I suggested last year, really putting into that public hearing process of removing a tree. You can actually fit into the process, the planning for how you go about replacing it, so that over time you're coming more and more in compliance with that ordinance. I believe there's also a speaker.
Yes. The clerks informed me that there's a registered speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. David Fieldspan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. My name is David Fieldson. My family, I'll keep this brief, by the way. My name is David Fieldson. I live at 76 Newhall Street, and I'm here to speak in favor of clarification of the tree ordinance, and specifically as it applies to the street trees on Newhall Street, which currently the DPW is planning on removing all of the street trees on Newhall Street due to deteriorated conditions of the sidewalk. And though I disagree with the decision, I commend Commissioner Snow, the city engineer DeMayo, and Mr. Marchand and others for meeting with residents numerous times over many months regarding this project. I've spoken with Mr. Snow and emailed him, and he states many times that they intend to replace the trees as best as they can. And the tree ordinance states that the city needs to, or should replace the trees inch per inch, and in this case, there's something around 434 inches, which would be 130-something 3-inch caliper trees, which is impractical, but just to replace them as best they can. And my worry for Newhall Street and for the city in general is that as the trees are cut down, as months go by, budgetary concerns are placed elsewhere, and then the trees don't get replaced. And so I just want clarification on, for Newhall Street and for the city in general, as to how that process moves forward once the trees are decided or to be removed. And that's all. Thank you. And I have, I'll pass these out later if you want, but views of Newhall Street and Kinsman Street, which is parallel to Newhall Street, just showing just the great tree canopy on Newhall Street. But I can say it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion's carried. Next motion by Mayor Murphy. Request City Council support work with the Youth Council on developing a mentoring program. Second by Councilor Noon. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The idea behind this, I've had some discussions with the Lowell Youth Council and the coordinators for that program. I'm putting together potentially a program which would pair up counselors or school committee people with each of the 9 counselors on the youth council for an 8 or 9 month program where they would meet monthly. They would have some kind of seminars that talk to them about issues of municipal importance, and that we could really establish more of a line of communication between the youth council and the city council and the school committee, and hopefully have the ability to work on some projects with those young people. But this is really just to get a sense of the council on whether or not that's something they're willing to do. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion's carried. Next motion by Mayor Murphy. Request City Manager and City Council develop capital investment policy with budget and explore capital fund leverage with other sources for smaller projects. Second by Mayor, Councilor Mercier. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is really 2 interrelated issues. The first is to develop a capital investment policy, which is something that we don't have with the rest of our financial policies, but I think it is important that the city really commits to annual reinvestment in all kinds of projects, infrastructure. We had a number of projects that took place this year, over $4 million worth of projects, particularly in the schools. I think it's important to keep that going and to come up with some kind of policy that makes sense for the city. Perhaps it's an average percentage of our annual budget, but something that makes sense for the city and that the city council could obviously support, so that we do have that continued investment, which I think is both an important signal to the rating agencies, but more importantly to our residents themselves, that we are working to continually make this a more livable city. The second part of the issue is really to address, I think, the problem that sometimes can occur where you have planning processes for the residents to participate in planning for a particular project, and the city just doesn't have the funds to implement that. We can apply for grants. That takes a long time, and often you see projects that just inevitably are tabled or put away in a drawer. This would perhaps address some of that issue, in that you could more quickly respond to things that are brought up. I think that, I use the word leverage, that in some cases, like the manager's initiative, you might have a certain amount of federal funds, the CDBG grants, to do a number of improvements in that neighborhood, but perhaps a neighborhood identifies something that might cost $15,000 more, where it doesn't make sense necessarily to go out and borrow the money for that extra piece. But it does make sense both financially and for the livability of that neighborhood to make that $15,000 bridge so that you can make that investment now and increase the impact, I think, of both that investment in all the prior ones. I can think of a number of other examples where that might work, where it's something where it doesn't make sense to go out to put a loan order out for that smaller project, but it could have a much larger impact.
Yeah, Council Kennedy?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, through you to the maker of the motion, how is this different from, we approved a multi-year capital plan back just prior to the budget, is my recollection. So how is this different from that?
Well, we did approve, a plan, but it doesn't necessarily happen each year that we approve all those projects on the plan. And this is to make sure that it's not just about, we could theoretically have done much more work this year at no cost this year, but of course that would have consequences for next year as we take on more debt service. We could have done more projects, I think, in the schools, and so that there was a bigger impact this year. But again, it has consequences for next year. I think it's to try and find that appropriate level to maintain so that we're continually reinvesting in the city, and it's not just the haphazard sort of way that it seems to have happened in the past.
So this is different from the capital plan that we approved?
Well, I think it would be not just...
it's a different way of implementing it?
Yes, I think so, yeah.
Intention is?
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed say nay. Motion's carried. Motion by Mayor Murphy. Request city manager implement fire alarm monitoring ordinance and present plan for compliance. Second by Council Noon. Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand we've had plenty of discussion about this tonight, but I do want to introduce another sort of wrinkle into this whole discussion, and that is, rather than rebating the private property owners, as has been suggested by a prior motion, I think we need to actually implement the fee that the council approved back in 2009 of $275 to monitor these boxes. I think it is important to note that these private end users are property owners of 13 or more units, which means they're making profit on housing residents here in the city. That's an important point. It's a cost of doing business, I think, to provide for the greatest protection possible for those residents of those particular buildings. I think at the heart of this issue, despite all the mistakes in the procurement process, I think at the heart of this issue is really public safety. That's why the chief had brought forward this system as the most advantageous system for the residents, for the greatest public safety. That's why he insisted upon that direct line system, so that you didn't have that 90-second delay. You didn't have, as it stated in the state's building code, you didn't have that human intervention, which can cause problems and puts those people who live in units, who live in buildings of 13 or more units at greater risk. I think it's important, similarly, that the non-emergency signals that are sent from these boxes are addressed separately, so that they don't take away from the response times of the fire department to provide that greatest level of security. And so this really addresses that issue. The $275 monitoring fee is meant to make sure that, you know, despite, you know, the emergency signals that are automatically sent to the fire department, it's meant to monitor these systems that send a flag to the fire department that there may be problems with the system itself. I think that is also a public safety issue, and that I'd like to see a plan so that we are doing that as well, and it's not distracting from the real issue here, which I believe to be public safety.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Roll call.
Roll.
Excuse
Councilor Mercer.
Mr. Chairman, before the roll call, I just want to see if I have this straight. First of all, the Inspector General's letter said that there was a flaw in the procurement way that it was handled, and the manager feels that because he didn't specify that, you know, certain parts that, you know, we're going to reimburse them or whatever, then we don't have to do that, and it is a public safety issue. So I personally feel they were wronged. I personally feel that some reimbursement should be made, and now on top of it, this motion is saying not only was it flawed, but the manager agrees that no reimbursement should be made, but we're going to make them pay the $275. I don't support this motion at all, no. I do want a roll call because I'm not supporting it. So we're not going to reimburse them, but we're going to charge them in this respect.
Councilor Martin.
I don't know where I got this impression, Mr. Manager, but maybe you can clear this up. I had thought we weren't implementing the fee because not everybody had complied yet. Is that just something is that true, or is that not the reason?
Mr. Manager.
There's a combination of reasons why we hadn't to date. There was a compliance issue, but there was also the issue of doing the full monitoring of the non-fire calls that were coming in. It is. I'm supportive actually of the mayor's motion that we need to put together a plan to begin to implement this ordinance that passed by the city council several years ago, to start charging a monitoring fee for these people that receive this service beyond the service provided to other people. I don't think we should retroactively go back. In fact, that would be my sense of how we we didn't charge for the people even though they were getting the monitoring, and that would be in a way a reimbursement for the people who implemented who attached these boxes for in accordance with the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My intent is not to retroactively go back and charge this fee. If you had, what you would come up with is a figure of $1,100. It was a ordinance that was voted 8-0 with one absent by the City Council back in 2009. If you factor in 2009, 2010, 2011, and now 2012, you have 4 years of not having been charged $275. But I do think it is important that the city is addressing these non-emergency calls so that they don't distract from the real emergency calls, which does provide for greater public safety. I would be interested in a list of those properties that didn't feel that this was enough of a public safety issue to have complied with the ordinance by now. You know, we heard that there were 303 buildings in the city. There were over 400 that were meant to be in compliance with the ordinance. Out of those 303, you have more than 68, because it's not just 68, it's also the 33 for UMass Lowell and the others for the Lowell Housing Authority. So there seems to be a number of properties that didn't see that this would be in the best interest of the people over whom they are making a profit. And I see that as a significant problem. And I see that also as a rationale for having this regulation in the first place, that private businesses didn't find it to be advantageous to those residents enough to go with the best system, that they would rather pay $1,100 in a monthly fee for a system that reroutes all those signals to a third party, which could cause at least a 90-second delay, potentially drop calls, and then put their residents at greater risk. So this motion is really to address the ordinance that was adopted back in 2009 and make sure that the greatest public safety is provided for those residents. Thank you.
Council Lori?
Thank you. We're talking about non-calls, non-emergency calls. I thought the city was looking to get another company to handle those.
That is what we would be doing to handle those, and that would be offset by this fee that would be coming in.
Councilor Elliott?
I must be confused, because what Mayor Murphy just said, that is what we're doing. Rerouting calls to a third party where calls could be dropped is exactly what this solicitation is looking to do
Not the emergency calls. Those would be
for non-fire alarm monitoring services. Two questions on this, Mr. Manager. Why does this state the due date? Sealed proposals will not be publicly opened on June 13th.
Could you repeat that?
This is the solicitation. It's actually
No, I know. If you could just.
It says due date, sealed proposals will not, and it's underlined, be publicly opened on June 13th at City Hall on June 13th in the purchasing department, room 60, blah, blah, blah.
I believe we did it. That's a price and non-price proposal request under 30B.
It does, that citation's not in there. Why is
But
it,
it's-
why is,
What you wouldn't open, because under that provision of the 30B, you separate the price and the non-price. And you actually review them by different parties. So there's one group that reviews the technical aspects of the proposal, and there's another group that reviews the price proposals.
so this also states that we're gonna charge, $275, and then the city is gonna get money back from that too?
We're going to
Why?
The ordinance provides for $275, and then the request that we received from or the request that we made of the bidders is that they tell us how much they will charge us, and then whatever is left over would help us offset our own costs of the monitoring service.
I just don't know how much we can expect businesses to pay. I mean, here's something else that, this is what businesses have called me. Another fee on top of everything else that we have to pay now.
Counselor, this isn't a new fee. You voted for this 4 years ago.
And now they want it.
So why is the city getting a piece of it? Where is our role? Why are we charging them for something?
Initially, we were
Can I
going
just
to.
finish my question, Mr. Chair? If we are not providing the service, why are we charging them for whatever portion of this?
Initially, when the fee was set and the council supported it, we were going to take the entire $275. We have now determined that the non-emergency calls.
And handle all the calls, alarms, and signals, because there's a difference?
When we did it, we were going to take all the calls, and we have now determined that the non-emergency calls, the malfunctioning calls that come in, take up an inordinate amount of time. And so that will be separated out, and the emergency calls will go right to dispatch. So it's achieving what we want. We're not bogging ourselves down with the non-emergency, but they have to go somewhere, and the emergency ones will go right to the fires, to the dispatch. So in effect, we're providing a better service and doing it with the same fee that we proposed and was adopted by the city council back in 2009.
Counselor, you all set? Anyone else? Okay, we had a call for a roll call.
Counselor Kennedy.
No.
Counselor Leahy.
No.
Counselor Laurie.
No.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Madonza.
Yes.
Counselor Mercia.
No.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counselor Nguyen.
Yes.
Counselor Elliott.
No.
4 yeas, 5 nays. Defeated.
Mr. Chairman,
Counselor Kennedy?
I would move that we delay action on item number 19, which I think is the only thing remaining on the agenda, until Friday, when we have the meeting on the special meeting.
Counselor Elliott?
I don't know when that meeting is scheduled, but I cannot make a meeting on Friday. So, I mean, I don't mind delaying this. I quite frankly, I would like to discuss this in open session. I don't know why the settlement is in discussion. It seems like everything else has been in the open, unless there's something significant that's going to damage
And,
the city.
yeah,
We're referring to going into executive session
yes.
regarding the Mr. Bayless.
Could I,
Um,
I would
Counselor Mercer?
move not to go into executive session and to discuss this issue on the council floor. To go into executive session, to me, seems to imply or give one the impression that wrongdoing occurred, and Mr. Bayless did nothing morally wrong, in my opinion, and therefore, I would support not going into executive session unless, of course, there was a confidentiality clause by both parties, and no one should be discussing it in open session. So I think if we could do it out in the public, I would just rather do it right here, if it's possible.
Well, if the solicitor could comment?
As far as the city, what we could do, particularly if it's going to be delayed, we could certainly contact the other side, and if there's no objection to having an open discussion.
I already talked to Mr. Bayless. He has no problem with talking about it in public.
All right, so that we can take the matter up. Oh, go ahead. I mean, we'll have to confirm that with his attorney.
I'm
but-
telling the truth.
No, I know you are, but I think the attorney should talk to the attorneys on this.
And I want to know, if we ultimately have a confidentiality clause and we have to go technically into executive session, why would Mr. Bayless not be allowed to go into executive session? I always thought that if you went into executive session, the city of Lowell versus, let's say, John Smith, and we were going to talk about John Smith, that he had every right to be there, as it was years ago when we went into executive session with the department head, and he had a right to be there. How come Mr. Bayless doesn't have the right to be there?
I'll let the city solicitor.
Oh, it doesn't. The purpose of the executive session was not to discuss, say, the charges or reputation character that falls into a certain category, but rather just to answer any questions in the event that the council had any, or to explain in more detail than otherwise has been done thus far, the parameters of the settlement agreement.
Just to get, I believe Counselor Kennedy made a motion that we delay action on going into executive session.
There was no second.
There was no second,
Yes.
but that's what is there someone willing to second that motion?
Council Mercia made another motion.
Well, I made a motion, since he didn't get a second,
Okay.
to do it in open session.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion to do it in open session, seconded by Mr. Kennedy, but we need confirmation from Mr. Bayless.
The city would be happy to have a discussion in open session and release the documents in open session, but we would not be in a position to do that without conferring with opposing counsel for Mr. Bayless.
Mr. Chairman?
Counselor Kennedy.
My understanding of the requirements for the executive session would be that Mr. Bayless would have had to been notified, and would have had to been given 48 hours notice. And so if he wasn't given that notice, we probably shouldn't be meeting even in an executive session, never mind open session. But if we're just meeting to discuss the, what happened, and what the city's exposure is, why do we have to notify opposing counsel? The matter's already squared away and signed. Why does opposing counsel have to be notified at all? It's all we're looking for is what was our exposure on this matter? How did it end up for us? Can you explain that?
Sure, let me try to address those issues. The first issue with respect to notifying Mr. Bayless, again, that would be if we were going in for a certain purpose, namely to discuss character, reputation, hear charges against someone, things of that nature. That's not the intent at all. As far as having an open session, we would not be, given the parameters of the litigation and the agreements that have followed, we would not be in a position to be able to do that at present, but perhaps we would be in a position after I have an opportunity to speak to Mr. Bayless's attorney.
I don't understand why that is. My understanding was that the matter was settled and that everybody had signed off on that. So if that's the case, why is it necessary to speak to Mr. Bayless or his attorneys?
Well, for example, and Councilor Mercier had referenced as one issue, in the event of confidentiality agreements, the city would want to be in a position in certain cases to be able to address any questions that the council might have and to be able to be in a position to fully apprise the council of what goes on in a particular case. Not all cases, obviously, rise to the level where there's council involvement. This one, obviously, I think is something that we wanted to make sure that when the matter was addressed, that there was a mechanism so that in the event that the council did have questions or wanted to discuss it or have a better sense as to what actually went on, that we would be able to do that, but that would occur pursuant to documents in an executive session form. It's not at all unusual that parties will, upon resolving matters, request confidentiality agreements and things of that nature.
Is a confidentiality agreement part of the settlement with Mr. Bayless?
I would rather, if you don't mind, I just don't want to state something until I have an opportunity to talk to his attorney. Let me think of how to.
Madam Solicitor, that's a pretty simple question. That's just a yes/no type.
Let me put it
There
this.
either is one or there isn't one.
Let me put it this way: I wouldn't want to, in the event that there was a confidentiality agreement or other substantive issues with respect to the agreement. If there's a confidentiality agreement, I don't want to state anything that was in the agreement until I've had an opportunity to talk to opposing counsel. Right,
but it would probably help this body in in knowing how to proceed if we knew whether or not there was a confidentiality agreement or not. If there's a confidentiality agreement, then I can kind of see why maybe you'd want to discuss it. But if there isn't a confidentiality agreement right now, then I see no reason why there can't be a full discussion.
Right, if there wasn't one, I would agree. There would be no reason why we couldn't.
Okay, so is that like a roundabout way of answering the question?
I don't want to put either myself or the city in a position where I am explicitly revealing things that are in an agreement or not in an agreement. But again, what I have stated is that at this point, if there is a willingness on the other side, I would like to just reach out to the attorney and confirm that, and then we can proceed to have an open session on the parameters of this matter.
By acknowledging that there's an agreement, that is not revealing anything that's in the agreement whatsoever. But nobody on this city council put this on the agenda. It was put on by the administration. And so is there a confidentiality agreement? Right now, is there a confidentiality agreement in place, signed?
Right. The difficulty that I am having with the question is that in the event that there were, and it was part of an agreement, again, I don't want to be breaching an agreement, and there is apparently, if we're not going to be discussing it anyway this evening and delaying action, I will be able to, as I've indicated, reach out to the other side, find out what their position is on it. You will know, whether it's an open session or an executive session, the contents of that settlement agreement, and hopefully you get a better sense as to some of my hesitation.
I guess what I'm having trouble understanding is why the very existence of a confidentiality agreement would be part of the confidentiality agreement. It would be as if the confidentiality agreement with, we both agree to this, and no one can even admit that this document exists. I mean, how can you have that?
Well, again, if certain conditions are met within the contents of a document, that's how that, something like that could.
Okay, I'm not gonna push it anymore. It just is, it's odd to me.
Council Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only concern that I have is if by chance there is a confidentiality agreement and it is determined that we can't discuss it in open session and we go in executive session, I would like to request that Mr. Bayless be present. Even though we're not discussing his personality, I still want to know if he can attend. I'd like that to happen. That's my only concern.
Councilor Elliott.
I want to follow up on Councilor Kennedy's line of questioning because there's an agreement that's been reached. And there has to be stipulations and terms in that agreement, whether both parties agree to it being confidential or not. And so going back to the question, I mean, there is a motion on the floor that's been seconded that we have a discussion in the open. Now, it's, in my opinion, it's either there is a confidentiality and we cannot discuss it, or either there is or there isn't. I mean, this should be black and white. I don't think if there's no agreement, no disrespect to either to the other party, but we're representing the city and the agreement's done. I'd like to see the agreement, actually. There's no reason why we shouldn't. I think we should have received a copy already, considering, why not? It's a public document. Unless that is part of it, that it's not a public document. So Madam Sislis,
Right.
Yes or no? I mean.
Well, it's not, again, I'm trying my best to explain it and not put the city or anybody else in any create a legal issue where there otherwise shouldn't be one. As far as the document being public, there is, it would be our position that the document is not public at this point. Councilor Mercy had indicated that she had heard from Mr. Bayless. He has no objection. I'd like to follow up with his attorney. That was certainly not the way matters were left with respect to these agreements. I have a copy of it and was planning on sharing it with you in executive session. Part of the reason that we wouldn't just release the document in open session is that with the new open meeting laws, any document that would be given to the council in an open session would, by operation of law, become a public record. So if a document was not intended to be a public document and it was distributed to the council in open session, it would defeat that purpose. So that was the reason. But certainly, you have a right to see it. When we resolved this matter, we made sure that you did in fact were part of the process, so that you would have a right to see it. And And that's where the matter rests.
What is the motion?
Mayor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to sort of bring an end to this. This is, I think, a ridiculous academic exercise. The whole idea behind the confidentiality agreement as being a part of the settlement means that you can't reveal what's in the settlement. So that's what we're talking about here. I don't see any problem in delaying, discussing this while, allowing for the solicitor to have time to contact the counsel of the opposing party so that we can figure this all out. But having this discussion doesn't move us any closer to adjournment.
So we have a motion to hold the discussion in open session, but first we're going to check with the attorneys for Mr. Bayless, and then we'll
Right.
proceed with it at that time.
That's fine.
Okay. Roll call.
Counsel Kennedy.
Yes.
Counsel Leahy.
Yes.
Counsel Lori.
Yes.
Counsel Martin.
Yes.
Counsel Madonza.
Yes.
Counsel Mercia.
Yes.
Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Counsel Nguyen.
Yes.
Counsel Elliott.
Yes.
9 yeas.
Motion to adjourn by Mayor Murphy.
Mr. Chairman. It's not seconded.
Councilor Kennedy.
When is the special, I'd like to be sure, everybody should have an opportunity to go to that special meeting. So if Friday's not going to work for some people, it would be a good idea maybe if the mayor's office polled everybody and found a time when everybody can meet. I can meet anytime at all. I can meet next week, anytime at all. But it would be, I think it's important that there be 9 people there.
Mayor Murphy, would it be possible to check with the auditor and then poll the council?
That's certainly my intention.
All right, very good. Now we have can we proceed? We already have a motion
Motion
and
to
a second.
adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second the motion to adjourn.
Second motion to adjourn by Councilor Kennedy. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed say nay. We stand adjourned. Thank you.